Part 241. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2401. Chapter 2401. She hated that with all her heart. Yet Xiao Mian squeezed his hand. I'll leave everything to you. Mo Yesi shook her hand and smiled softly. Aren't you stupid? Why are you so polite to your husband? I'm going in, so you can just wait outside. Mo Yesi comforted her, then turned and walked into the operating room. Other medical staff also walked in one after another. After a while, the door of the operating room closed. Xiao Mian returned to the old lady. The old lady must also be worried. She holds a string of Buddhist beads in her hand and is chanting silently. Mo Zingshu also had worry on his face and glanced towards the operating room from time to time. Xiao Chen is the child left to him by his beloved woman. This is the fruit of his and her love. He has lost her. Their children must never have anything happen to them again. Beside Mo Zingshu, the second lady also raised her head and looked towards the operating room. She had a sullen face, no warmth in her eyes, and a hand by her side was clenched tightly. If Xiao Chen recovers, it will definitely have a greater impact on her and her family's influence. The second lady wished that Xiao Chen would have an accident during the operation and die on the operating table. But the person who performed the surgery this time was Mo Yesi, and all the medical staff were arranged by him. They were from his side. Even though the second madam had thought about making a fuss about this operation, she simply couldn't place anyone in it. No matter how unwilling she was, there was nothing she could do. Her cold peripheral vision caught sight of Mo Zingshu's worried and nervous expression. The hands on her sides were clenched tighter and her eyes became colder. When she married Mo Zingshu, she thought she was marrying love. Because she married the man she loved deeply, she thought she was the happiest woman in the world. But later she realized that he already had someone in his heart. When he married her, he was just following the arrangements of his family. He had no feelings for her at all. In the year after their marriage, he did not touch her. It was only after she put aside her reserve and dignity, listened to the elders in the family, and put medicine in the tea he drank that he finally touched her once. Later, the died, and his heart also died. Perhaps he figured it out, and he finally stopped guarding himself for that bitch. Even so, he would drink a lot before touching her every time, and he had never touched her soberly. He would cover her face every time, and when he was emotional, he would call out that bitch's name to her. His heart, from beginning to end, was filled only with that bitch. They have been married for more than 20 years, and no matter what she does, she still cannot warm his heart. He is like a piece of ice that can never melt, and his heart is also made of stone. She knew that she would never be able to win his heart in this life. She later gave up and no longer had any extravagant hopes for him. She just wanted to have a child and raise the child well. Who knew that God was extremely cruel to her and would not satisfy her even such a humble wish? She was diagnosed with a physical risk that she would never be able to conceive a child in her lifetime. Just when she was so desperate that she wanted to die, that gave birth to a child for him. How could she tolerate it? She hated that with all her heart. I also hate the little who was born from this bastard. Later, she arranged for someone to steal the little away and throw him into the river to feed the fish. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2402. Chapter 2402. I am crying with joy. She originally thought that the little would definitely die. Unexpectedly, that little not only survived, but also returned to the Mo family and took away the power in her hands bit by bit. The second madam turned her gaze to the operating room again, with a hint of cruelty and coldness flashing in her eyes. When this little recovers completely, he will definitely gradually take control of the company in the future. Mo Xingshu has already told her that when the little graduates from college, the company will be handed over to him for full management. She must find a way to make this little disappear from this world before that happens. Otherwise, will she be able to live a good life in the future? If this little were to find out, her mother was. The little will definitely take revenge for that bitch. Asterisk. After an hour, the closed door of the operating room opened. The old lady held her fingers holding the beads for a moment, slowly opened her eyes, and asked Uncle Zhang to help her up. Chiao Mian also rushed over immediately. Lu Rao followed several assistants and walked out, taking off his mask as he walked. He saw Chiao Mian standing outside the door, showed her a relieved smile, walked to her, stopped and said, "The operation went well, don't worry." Chiao Mian suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Her eyes suddenly became warm, she blinked and said with red eyes, "Dean Lu, thank you so much." "Sister-in-law, you'd better call me by my name," Lu Rao said with a smile, "you're too polite. Besides, the person who performed the surgery this time was ACI, and he is the one who takes the most credit." Just as Lu Rao talked about Mo Yesi, Chiao Mian saw Mo Yesi walking out of the operating room. He took off his mask, revealing a face as handsome as a god. Seeing a group of people outside the operating room, he curled his lips and walked straight to Chiao Mian. "ACI, is everything going well?" The old lady was helped over and walked over with concern on her face. "How is Chen Chen's situation?" others are also asking. "The operation was successful, and Chen Chen is in good condition now. However, he is still a little weak after the operation and needs to take a good rest first. Don't disturb him for the time being. Let him rest and then go see him." Chiao Mian saw sweat on Mo Yesi's forehead and took out a tissue to wipe him with. The operation time was much shorter than she expected. She thought it would take several hours. Unexpectedly, it was finished in 1 hour. Mo Yesi naturally lowered his head so that she could wipe it easily. When he saw her slightly red eyes, he frowned and asked in a low voice, "Why are you crying?" "It's nothing, I'm just happy," Chiao Mian sniffed, feeling that her eyes were still a little warm. "I think that Chen Chen will soon become a healthy and normal person, and I feel very happy. I'm crying with joy." She has been worried about Jiao Chen's health. Before she met Mo Yesi, she had a dream several nights that Jiao Chen left because of a heart attack. She was heartbroken and woke up crying. After the nightmare, overwhelming fear swept over her. At that time, she was very, very afraid that her dream would come true. At this time, it almost became her heartache. Now, she finally doesn't have to be afraid anymore. Her Chen Chen can live in this world for a long time. He will live a long life. She was thinking, what would have been the fate of her and Jiao Chen if she hadn't met Mo Yesi? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2403. Chapter 2403. This is such a loving couple. It was God who was kind to the siblings and allowed them to meet him. He changed her destiny. It also changed Jiao Chen's fate. A warm current surged in Chiao Mian's heart, and she couldn't help but throw herself into his arms, reaching out and hugging him tightly. Mo Yesi, thank you. She pressed her face against his chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat, and her heart felt particularly peaceful. Mo Yesi was stunned for a moment and then reached out to hug her. At this moment, he seemed to feel her mood. He wanted to reach out and touch her head, but he still had gloves on his hands. "Baby," Mo Yesi said in a gentle voice, "let me change my clothes first, okay? Then you can hold her as much as you want, and for as long as you want." He has not yet taken off his surgical gown. Although she didn't dislike it, he felt dirty. Jiao Mian saw that he was still wearing surgical clothes. People who were coming out of the operating room one after another saw the two people hugging each other, both men and women, with envy on their faces. This is really a loving couple. The female nurses looked at Mo Yesie's handsome face. Their hearts beat faster and they were filled with envy of Jiao Mian. I heard that the Dr. Mo doing the surgery this time was Mo Yesie, the president of the Mo family. Who would have thought that this man, who is known as a myth in the business world, is also a big shot figure in the medical world. The most important thing is that he is so good looking. This face can easily kill the young and old people in the entertainment industry. He is a person who can rely on his face to make a living, but he has superior strength. Such a man is simply the best of the best. Perfect to the extreme. Even if he glanced at them one more time, they felt that their hearts were about to explode. At this moment, how lucky is the woman who is held in his arms and whom he stares at with such gentle and doting eyes. Such a peerless person turned out to be her man. She also didn't know what it would be like for her to fall in love with such a man. I must be bursting with happiness. If they could spend even one night with this man, they would faint with happiness and have no regrets in their lives. That's Dr. Mo's girlfriend, right? Her girlfriend is so lucky to be in a relationship with Dr. Mo. She's said to be her fiancé. I've seen entertainment news before. Her girlfriend is an artist named Jiao Mian, and she's very popular now. Dr. Mo told reporters personally that he and his girlfriend have decided to get married next year. There's a wedding. Wow, the marriage has been decided? Then isn't her girlfriend going to marry into a rich family and become a young mistress? Will a famous family like the Mo family really allow him to marry a female star? Well, I forgot to mention that Jiao Mian is not just an artist. She also has an identity. She is the daughter of the Bai family, which is a good match for the Mo family. She is still the daughter of the Bai family. No wonder. They are indeed a well-matched couple. It is said that Jiao Mian is very lucky, but I think Dr. Mo is also very lucky. His fiancée is very beautiful, and he has earned a fortune by bringing home such a beautiful wife. Yes, Jiao Mian is indeed very beautiful. I think she is even more beautiful in person than in the photos and videos. She is a real beauty. Mo listened to the discussion of the young nurses and then saw Jiao Mian relying on her son like a boneless person. She had a cold face and looked unhappy. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2404. Chapter 2404. From now on, everything I have will be given to him. In front of outsiders and elders like them, they don't know how to be reserved or restrained. Privately, I don't know what it is like. Although she is the daughter of the Bai family. But after all, she grew up in a small family, and there is still a big gap between her and Zhiyuan from a real famous family. The daughter-in-law her two sons found. She was satisfied with none of them. Especially that Zhang Luli. Mo thought of something and became angry again. She turned her head and glared at Zhang Luli, who was leaning on Mo Shixiu as if he was boneless, and the look of disgust in her eyes became a little thicker. Although she doesn't like Jiao Mian, she is still satisfied with her status as the daughter of the Bai family. Zhang Luli comes from a truly ordinary commoner's background. He has a younger brother who loves to eat and is lazy, and a mother who likes to gamble. The family situation is extremely bad. Such a girl may not be married into a normal family. But he relied on scheming to get into the door of her Mo family. Her eldest son is as good as him. She is the best woman in the world, and she is also a good match. But he married such a woman and came back. What kind of sin did she do that made God punish her like this? Asterisk. After the operation, Jiao Chen was transferred to the ward. Except for Jiao Mian, Mo Yesie, and Mo Xingshu, everyone else went back first. Outside the ward, Mo Zingshu said to Mo Yesi with a grateful expression, "Yesi, thank you this time. It was you who cured Chen Chen. My second uncle wants to express his gratitude to you." "Second uncle, you're welcome. Chen Chen is not only my cousin, but also my Enmian's younger brother. Everything I do is as it should be." Mo Yesi's words actually have another meaning. What he valued more was not Jiao Chen's status as his cousin. It's because Jiao Chen is Jiao Mianmian's younger brother. In other words, he would perform this operation entirely for Jiao Mianmian's sake. In fact, it has little to do with people from the Mahist family. Mo Zingshu naturally heard it, but thought it was nothing. As long as Jiao Chen can be cured, it doesn't matter what his reasons are. No matter what, my second uncle still wants to say thank you. Mo Zingshu thought of the pale young man lying on the hospital bed, with distress in his eyes. Chen Chen, this kid, has suffered a lot, although I have some thoughts now. To make up for it, I still miss the most important years of his life. It was God's mercy that allowed us, father and son, to be together. Now that Chen Chen has cured the disease, I have nothing to worry about. Since my second uncle loves Chen Chen, I have to say one more thing." Mo Yesi took off the gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose and reached out to pinch the center of his eyebrows. Mo Zingshu looked at him, say. Mo Yesi put the glasses back on and raised his eyes to look at Mo Zingshu. "I can see that the second uncle really loves Chen Chen. However, the more the second uncle loves Chen Chen, the more uncomfortable some people may feel. Second uncle is just a child like Chen Chen. I believe everyone knows what this means. In the past, second uncle thought it didn't matter and gave it to others. But now I know you want to take all those things back and give them to others. Chen Chen." "Of course," Mo Zingshu said without hesitation, "Chen Chen is my only son. From now on, everything I have will be given to him. This is the child given to him by the woman he loves deeply." End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2405. Chapter 2405. To him, Jiao Chen is considered his relative. This child has not been with him since he was a child and has suffered a lot. He owes him a lot. He wanted to make amends. So he will give him the greatest compensation in material terms. All his wealth will belong to his son. Second uncle, don't forget, you have a wife. When you do these things, what will your wife think? Mo Zingshu immediately heard another meaning in this sentence. Mo Yesi looked at the slightly changed expression on his face and knew that he should have understood what he meant. There are some words that need to be stopped as soon as they are pointed out. After all, although Mo Zingshu is his second uncle, he and he are not really a family member. When Mo Yesi was just born, the Mo family was already separated. The two brothers, Mo Yunchen and Mo Zingshu, lived in the same place, each had a family, and each ran his own business. After the separation, the two families did not have close contact. Also, because the old lady is still here, the two families get together at least once a month. We also get together during the New Year and holidays. But that's all. We usually live our own lives separately, and occasionally call to check in. Since it is not a matter of his own family, he does not need to say too much. In fact, if this matter didn't involve Jiao Chen, he wouldn't have even asked a question. If the second uncle really values Chen Chen, then protect him. If the second uncle has any difficulties and there are things that are difficult to do, then let me do it, Mo Yesi said calmly. He has no deep affection for Mo Zingshu, let alone his nominal second aunt. To him, Jiao Chen is naturally much more important than his nominal second aunt. To him, Jiao Chen is considered his relative. If one day comes, these two people are in opposition and one of them must be eliminated. Then he must deal with his nominal second aunt. But Mo Yesi didn't want things to get too bad and get out of hand. After all, Mo Zingshu was his biological second uncle, so he didn't care at all. After hearing what he said, Mo Xingshu was silent for a moment, nodded solemnly and said, "I understand, I will definitely protect Chen Chen. I will deal with the things you are worried about." Mo Yesi nodded and said nothing more. Anyway, he will always take care of Chiao Chen and let others protect him. Even if Mo Xingshu is not doing well, he, as a brother-in-law, will take good care of his brother-in-law. I'm going to see Chen Chen. After finishing the conversation, Mo Xingshu turned and walked into the ward. Second uncle. They happened to meet Jiao Mian who was walking out of the ward. They met at the door. Jiao Mian called out softly and Mo Xingshu nodded to her. Jiao Mian left the ward, saw Mo Yesi standing in the corridor, and walked towards him. When will Chen Chen wake up? She had just been guarding Jiao Chen in the ward, and Jiao Chen hadn't woken up yet. Although she knew nothing could happen, she still asked worriedly. About an hour or so. Don't worry, he's fine. Mo Yesi stretched out his arms to hug her as she walked in front of him, pinched her slender waist and pressed his palms against hers. Are you hungry? Let's go eat first. Jiao Mian was not very hungry. But considering that Mo Yesi had just undergone surgery, even though the operation didn't last long, it probably took a lot of energy out of him. She nodded, well, I'm a little hungry, let's go eat first. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2406. Chapter 2406. Yan Shaoqing is your cousin? Anyway, Chiao Chen will have to wait a while before he wakes up. Now there is Mo Xingshu guarding him. There are so many professional doctors and nurses taking turns to take care of him, so she has nothing to worry about. I asked Wei Zheng to check what delicious food is around the hospital. Mo Yesi took out his mobile phone and sent Wei Zheng a WeChat message. It only took 2 or 3 minutes for Wei Zheng to recover. Several restaurants with good surrounding environment were sent over and Mo Yesi was asked to choose. Mo Yesi looked at it and handed the phone to Jiao Mian. Let's see what you want to eat. Wei Zheng said these are pretty good. Jiao Mian chose a restaurant with light taste, and the two of them drove there. Asterisk. When they arrived at the restaurant, they had just ordered the food when they heard a quarrel behind them. Jiao Mian heard a girl's voice sound familiar during the quarrel, so she turned her head and looked curiously. Then I saw an acquaintance. In fact, they are not considered acquaintances, just people they know. It was the little cousin Lin Wanwan who was with Yan Shaoqing that night. She seemed to be in some kind of trouble. Opposite her, there were several men standing. Those men were about in their 20s, and they looked like playboys in their clothes. The man in the lead was looking at Lin Wanwan with evil intentions, and was teasing her with frivolous words. Little sister, don't be angry. My brother really likes you. Don't be afraid. He just wants you to have a meal with his brother. I don't want to eat you. You make us happy, and my brother will buy you something nice. Are the clothes and bags good? Whatever you like, my brother will buy you. I don't need it. I have the money to buy it myself. If you keep doing this, I will call the police. Lin Wanwan had a panic look on her face and yelled at several men who were much older than her. As an adult, she was obviously scared. So I used my voice to cover up the fear in my heart. Call the police. Several men seemed to have heard something funny and they all laughed. Oh, little sister, you want to call the police? We are so scared. Yes, we are really scared to death. Little sister, please don't call the police to arrest us. A few people said something strangely and laughed loudly. Lin Wanwan is young, and although she is usually arrogant and domineering, that is only in front of people who know her. The men in front of her obviously didn't know her. In other words, even if he knew her, he didn't take her seriously. Lin Wanwan saw that they were not afraid of calling the police, and she became even more afraid. She took a step back. "Little sister, don't go, you haven't even had dinner with your brothers yet." A dandy boy stepped forward and stopped her. He smiled and stretched out his hand to pull her. "Don't be afraid. Brothers are all good people. They will only love you and will not hurt you. Do not touch me." Lin Wanwan screamed and slapped the playboy's hand away. "My cousin is Yan Xiaoqing, the second young master of the Yan family. Get out of here, or I will call my cousin over and let him beat you to death." The man who was slapped away by her paled. He was about to catch her again with a cold expression when he heard the name Yan Xiaoqing and paused. The other people were also stunned for a moment. "Yan Xiaoqing is your cousin." These dandy boys were obviously afraid of Yan Xiaoqing and did not dare to go up to force Lin Wanwan. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2407. Chapter 2407, Don't meddle in other people's business. Yes, Yan Xiaoqing is my cousin. He loves me the most. Lin Wanwan saw how many people were afraid when they heard Yan Xiaoqing's name, and she couldn't help but feel a little proud, and she was not as scared as before. When she wasn't afraid, her arrogant and domineering attitude came out again. She looked at the people with her chin raised. "You know you are afraid now. Why don't you apologize to me quickly? When my cousin comes, I will let you eat walking around endlessly." "You said that Yan Xiaoqing is your cousin." "That's your cousin." Several dandy boys were shocked by Yan Xiaoqing's name, but soon, someone raised questions. "Don't think that you can just say a few words. Can scare us. We have met Mr. Yan, but we have never heard him mention that he has a cousin. These dandies have actually met Yan Xiaoqing. Yan Xiaoqing had a lot of fun outside and had many friends. I'm not lying to you, Yan Xiaoqing is really my cousin." Lin Wanwan couldn't help but become anxious when she saw a few people showing doubts. She took out her mobile phone and dialed a number. "You don't believe it, do you? I'll give it to you right now. My cousin called and asked him to talk to you." Several dudes saw that Lin Wanwan had really dialed a number, and looking at her determined look, it didn't look like she was faking at all, and they all showed nervousness on their faces. "This little girl is not really Yan Xiaoqing's cousin, is she?" Then they teased Yan Xiaoqing's cousin. Wasn't it miserable? A few people were thinking about whether to run away immediately, but they saw that Lin Wanwan, who had looked confident just now, suddenly changed her expression. A full minute has passed, and the person on the other side has not yet picked up the phone. Lin Wanwan's face became more and more ugly. The dandies looked at each other, and when they looked at Lin Wanwan, there was no scruple in their eyes. A man stepped forward and knocked Lin Wanwan's cell phone to the ground, then grabbed her wrist and said with a sneer, "Little girl, you still want to use Yan Xiaoqing to deceive us? Do you think we are so easy to deceive? Stop following us. We are playing tricks. My brother's patience is limited. Take this stinky girl away. She dares to lie to us. I'll deal with him later." Lin Wanwan struggled. "Let me go, my cousin is really Yan Xiaoqing. If you dare to do this to me, my cousin will not let you go." "Damn girl, you are still so stubborn now. Don't say you lied to us. So what if you are really Yan Xiaoqing's cousin? She is just a cousin, and maybe she is a relative who cannot be beaten by anything. Take Yan." "Who is Xiaoqing trying to scare?" The dandies ignored Lin Wanwan's struggle and forced her to go to the box they reserved. "Most of the people around me don't dare to meddle in other people's business. These people seem a bit careless at first glance, and they are not people to be trifled with. People are indifferent, and few people are willing to get into trouble for someone they don't know." One or two people who had a sense of justice took out their mobile phones and wanted to secretly call the police, but they were discovered before the call was dialed. "Stop meddling in other people's business, or I'll make you look bad." The dude walked up to the person who called the police and threatened with a gloomy expression. The person who called the police did not dare to take any further action. Lin Wanwan started crying, "Let me go." Chiao Mian frowned when she witnessed everything. She turned back and was about to tell Mo Yesi about this, but she saw Mo Yesi's eyes also looking towards Lin Wanwan. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2408. Chapter 2408. Why should I help? Obviously, he saw it too. Seeing Lin Wanwan crying miserably and being dragged away by those dudes, Chiao Mian asked Mo Yesi, "Have you seen that Xiaoking's little cousin seems to be in trouble?" "Yeah, I saw it." Mo Yesi looked away when Chiao Mian spoke to him. His voice was light and no emotion could be heard. Chiao Mian saw that he didn't seem to have any intention of helping. "Don't you, go and help." "Why should I help?" Mo Yesi asked confused. Chiao Mian. "She is Xiaoking's cousin." "That has nothing to do with me." Mo Yesi's tone was a little cold. "She is not my cousin." That's what Mo Yesi was thinking. He had no intention of being a hero and saving the beauty. Even his own cousin, he doesn't have to help. Yan Xiaoking's cousin is also a stranger to him. He has no habit of helping strangers. What's more, he didn't have a good impression of Lin Wanwan. "No, I think we should take care of it." Chiao Mian stood up and said with a frown, "Those men obviously have no good intentions, and she will definitely be in danger. She is still a child, we have no idea. It's okay to see it, but I feel bad about seeing it but not doing anything about it." Chiao Mian didn't know that she was already regarded as a love rival by Lin Wanwan. And according to her character, even if she knew Lin Wanwan's thoughts, she would still help. In her eyes, Lin Wanwan is still a child. Let her watch a child being bullied by several grown men, she can't do it. Mo Yesi also frowned. "You want to help? How about just watching her being bullied? She is still a child. What if something bad happens?" Chiao Mian's face changed as she thought of some possible consequences. Seeing that she had made up her mind, Mo Yesi sighed softly and stood up. "Then I'll go. Just stay here and I'll take care of it." He doesn't want to help. But if his little wife insisted on helping, he had no choice but to listen to her. "Are you going alone? Can you handle it? You question your husband's ability." Mo Yesi raised his eyebrows, as if he was offended, and curled his lips. "You still don't know whether I can do it or not." Chiao Mian. "You drive just because you have a disagreement?" A thin layer of blush appeared on her fair face, and she glared at him. "Ahem. Mo Yesi, be careful in public." "What's wrong with me?" Mo Yesi deliberately pretended to be confused to tease her. Chiao Mian glared at him again. "I won't talk to you about this anymore. Go help Lin Wanwan quickly." Mo Yesi reluctantly said, "Wait for me, and eat first when you're hungry." "You don't have to wait for me." After saying these words, he walked in the direction where the dudes left just now. Asterisk. When Mo Yesi chased after him, several dandies had already pulled Lin Wanwan into the box. He walked to the door of the box and heard Lin Wanwan's crying coming from inside. He stood at the door for a while before reaching out and opening the door. In the private room, a dude forcibly held Lin Wanwan in his arms, holding a glass of wine in his hand, and was force-feeding Lin Wanwan. Lin Wanwan shook her head and refused to drink, so the dude smiled evilly and said, "Little sister, if you don't want to drink by yourself, then my brother will feed you himself." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2409. Chapter 2409 Have you had enough fun? Lin Wanwan shook her head desperately, crying until her face was stained. Mo Yesi stood at the door, watching expressionlessly. To be honest, he didn't feel anything at all when he saw Lin Wanwan crying so miserably. He is not a just and kind-hearted person to begin with, and he has no interest in the so-called drawing a sword to help when the road is rough. He will not do anything that is too messy himself. But he has no interest in caring about others. Here, except for the people he cares about, life and death have nothing to do with him. If Chiao Mian hadn't asked him to help, he would have just pretended that he didn't see anything. He stood expressionlessly at the door for a while, until Lin Wanwan knocked the wine glass that the dude had put to her lips onto the ground, and then was slapped by the dude with her hand, and then she spoke out unhurriedly, "Have you had enough fun?" The sudden sound made several dudes stunned for a moment, and then they all turned their heads. Lin Wanwan raised her head when she heard a familiar voice. She had just been slapped and her head was knocked unconscious. When she saw Mo Yesi standing at the door, she thought she was hallucinating for a moment. She looked at the figure leaning against the door that was like a descending, her eyes widened, and she murmured in disbelief, "Brother Yesi." Suddenly they saw a person standing at the door, and all the dudes were startled. The person who reacted first stared at Mo Yesi for a few seconds, with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. "Who are you?" Dandy felt that it looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it. But even though he didn't know who Mo Yesi was, he was intimidated by his powerful aura, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in his heart. The same goes for the other two dandies. Because Mo Yesi usually doesn't like to go out and make friends, and he doesn't like to make friends with people. In addition, he has been abroad and has not been back home for a long time, so many people are not familiar with his face. But even if you don't know his identity, you can tell that he is no ordinary person. The aura and coercion that a man has comes from someone who has been in a position of power for a long time. "Who are you?" the other two dudes also asked. Suddenly being disturbed, several people were a little unhappy and frowned. But before they found out Mo Yesi's identity, they all had scruples in their eyes. "Brother Yesi, is it really you?" Lin Wanwan thought it was her imagination. She stretched out her hand to rub her eyes. When she looked at the slender figure at the door again, tears suddenly flowed out of her eyes. Zumo Yesi shouted, "Brother Yesi, these bullied me. Help me take revenge." "Brother Yesi," when the dude next to her heard her address to Mo Yesi, that inexplicable sense of familiarity came out again. He stared at Mo Yesi for a few more seconds, and murmured to himself, "Yesi, Mo Yesi." The dude suddenly opened his eyes wide with surprise. Are you Mo Yesi, the president of the Mo family?" The other two dudes also opened their eyes wide. "Mo Yesi, president of the Mo family." Although they have never met Mo Yesi, they are familiar with this name. Because the elders in their family would often use Mo Yesi to teach them, telling them how outstanding Mo Yesi was, and if they could compare to him even 100%, it would be the result of their ancestors' accumulated virtues. The name Mo Yesi is a myth in the entire business world. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2410. Chapter 2410 overflows with a hint of sweetness. The name Mo Yesi is a myth in the entire business world. Of course, what really makes him famous and what makes him fearful to others is not only his own outstanding abilities, but also his tough and ruthless methods. A few people just heard Lin Wanwan calling Mo Yesi brother. Looking at Mo Yesi standing at the door with an expressionless expression, several people's faces turned pale with fright when they thought of some possibility. Oh shit! They won't be so unlucky. Is this Lin Wanwan really Yan Shaoking's cousin? Thinking again of the slap just now, the who hit Lin Wanwan was almost crying. "Mo, Mr. Mo, why are you here?" Several dudes were so frightened that they stammered. At this time, Lin Wanwan reached out and pushed the dude next to her, and then ran towards Mo Yesi crying. The dude naturally didn't dare to hold her back anymore. Seeing Lin Wanwan heading straight towards Mo Yesi, looking at each other, he swallowed, and the cold sweat on his forehead dropped one by one. Lin Wanwan ran to Mo Yesi with tears in her eyes. She looked at the extremely handsome man in front of her with blurred vision. Even though his eyebrows were still cold and his breath was still distant, at this moment, a hint of sweetness overflowed in her heart. Mo Yesi, who appeared at this time, was like a savior, saving her from dire straits in time. Lin Wanwan's heart trembled violently. She looked at Mo Yesi with eyes full of love and admiration, as if she was looking at her unparalleled hero. Although he was particularly indifferent to her that night, which deeply hurt her heart. But she didn't blame him at all. He is not a truly indifferent person, nor does he really care about her at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. The reason why he was so cold to her that night was because his wife was there. He wants to show it to his wife. Lin Wanwan came up with various plots by herself. In her plot, Mo Yesi almost fell in love with her at first sight. "Brother Yesi, am I not dreaming? Is it really you?" Lin Wanwan raised her little face that was wet with tears, with a pitiful posture, and acted exaggeratedly. "I don't even dare to blink, I'm afraid you'll disappear if I blink." "Brother Yesi, woo, those insist on letting me drink with them. Wanwan is so scared, and they even beat Wanwan. You must help Wanwan express this." Lin Wanwan stretched out her hand to pull her away. Mo Yesi's hand. Mo Yesi's face darkened, his eyes full of disgust. When she reached out, he turned and walked out of the box. "If you want to stay here with them, then just stay here." After saying these words, he left without looking back. Chiao Mian asked him to come over to help, but he had already finished helping. After knowing his identity, those dandies would definitely not dare to do anything to Lin Wanwan anymore. With Lin Wanwan's crisis resolved, his mission was completed. As for those dandy boys who bullied Lin Wanwan, it had nothing to do with him. He had never thought about dealing with them. Mo Yesi thought very simply. He is only responsible for taking Lin Wanwan away. What kind of injustice Lin Wanwan suffered at the hands of those dandies was her own business. End of this chapter.